guys, this is an interview I did with Steve Malner back in 1996 where he talks about a couple guys who was showing where some huge, vast amounts of treasure was located in the Uinta Mountains. It also talks about some other things as well as Brewer's Caves and some other things. These are some of my old files that was never meant for other people to see or hear. In fact, this is way before YouTube. These were just made for my own personal information. And if you would do me a huge favor, hit that like button. I don't know if YouTube likes it or not or if it helps me, but I know it sure makes me feel good. And with that said, on with the show.
But he took him in to the treasure room, and he said before he went, he had to make a vow that he would never return. He could never take any of the gold.
Right.
Because all he said was he wanted to see it. He wasn't that smart enough to figure it out. So when he went in, he said the guy lifted up a big rock with one hand, and it was on a hinge. He lifted it up, and it went down. Steps went down into the earth. He went down in there, and he said, "Steve, there was more gold than you can shake a stick at." Stacked on the side of the wall. Well, then he claims that the guy told him there are other deposits in that area. And that area happened to be soapstone up from Woodland near Camas, up that canyon going towards Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, because of this area, he went back looking for, or sent people back looking for other deposits. But he doesn't dare go back himself because he made a vow.
Right.
That he would never take anybody back.
Well, if something happened like to me too, I guess I wouldn't either. That'd be kind of spooky.
But
go ahead.
The other guy that is from Ogden was also taken in, but he was allowed to take all he could carry, but he could never come back. His partner was here in my office several times, and so they even hired a helicopter. This guy was down the canyon with walkie-talkies and trying to tell him where to go. And they were up on the mountain because he's afraid to go back. Well, they didn't find diddly. And he's a very wealthy man today because he was able to carry out a few gold bars. And if you can carry out a couple gold bars, $250,000 each, you can...
I personally know a guy from Ogden who claims, and I don't think he'd lie to me, that he's been in several of these depositories, he calls them, with records and gold and stuff, that he says he doesn't take anything out, but he's been dynamiting them closed, he says, blocking them off, and he ended up with some gold bars and stuff that I got to hold. And he wouldn't never tell me where they came from or wouldn't never say anything about it. In fact, I asked him, I says, "Where'd this come from?" And he didn't say anything. I just thought he didn't hear me. So I asked again, and he never said anything again. He just ignored me, wouldn't tell me. So.
All I know is when the time's right, I quit looking.
You have quit looking, you say? Or?
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Why is that?
Because the sacred stuff, you're not going to get it anyway. The whole purpose of this life, if you can show me one time in the history of man where the Creator used gold for His purposes, then let's go get it. But see, I can't find anywhere.
Now, I was told, now I don't know how true it is, but I was told that the ancients used to ingest the gold, some kind of a healing thing, or don't know how true it is, but that's what I've...
So when we start talking about gold and records, now see, I've had Indians come to me and tell me that the records are on big crystals. Now what does a little crystal chip, computer chip, consist of? You put it in a computer, and it holds 50 books.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Well, the Indians are now saying that these computer concept, the ancient civilization already had that.
Huh.
And it was all lost. And we're just getting back to where we were before the destruction. If these records are in fact crystals, then we got eons of time. And those crystals, according to Indian legend, you cannot get by the crystals because they have such powerful energy coming off of them. Well, that makes sense. What does he have to make him have power? Some little mineral out there. You know, where did this concept come from? Well, I think it came from Jesus Christ's concept that was lost. And this powerful man, what does Superman do? He doesn't have wings. The angels have wings, but this guy just goes through space because he has this energy source. But he's got to go outside this earth to get it. That's the plan of salvation. We're here with this mortal, stupid body that has no function except to live and die because we can't go anywhere with it.
Uh-huh.
But once our spirits have the ability to leave our bodies, and I've had people tell me their experiences, they've traveled all around. One old Indian in Oklahoma has told me, he's 126, that he made a visitation to the Uintas.
Uh-huh.
By spirit. He left his body in his teepee through a vision quest.
Right.
And come back.
Right.
And he said, the records are safe. I'm not worried.
Well, I've never heard the crystal theory, but I do know that there is records on plates and whatnot by the tons, especially in South America. Juan Moritz on some of them subterranean world, and they even formed an expedition, was going to go in there, and then the guy didn't trust him. Something happened. I got the story on that from one of the guys that was involved. But I know there is all kinds of records that are not on.
Land?
What's that?
Where's the Promised Land?
That's
Is that Jerusalem? What was Moses trying to be denied into the Promised Land if it's the Promised Land's over there in Jerusalem? If Moses was denied to cross the river into the Promised Land, so was Moses in America? If he was, where's the Ark of the Covenant? Not but the real one. Now, if it's in Utah, then we rewrite history books.
right. Well, let me tell you something. The symbols in Cedar City. These types of symbols I'm tracking down. There's a lady in New Mexico that tried to decipher them, and she deciphered them in Egyptian, and she says it's talking about Moses. She says it's a story just like Moses? on being put in being put in a basket, floating down a river, and all that stuff. And she says, I don't know why it's there in Cedar City. If people are,
I do.
If something like that happened, or if they're just trying to redo a deal. Also, she talks about these symbols. Says that they talk about people in a deluge. There's a deluge hitting, and they're burying their records and headed for the higher grounds in hopes that they can come back to them, later on.
Well, Moses, I believe, was in Cedar City.
You believe that? Well, that's what this lady deciphered, and she says it doesn't make sense to me. She says, I don't know why it's telling that, but that's what she said. See, when you put the South America and Africa together, they got pyramids on each one. That was one mass once, and that's where the Egyptians lived. Well, the other theory is, if Jesus Christ is so smart and Satan has so much power, do you think maybe that the vagabond, the one called Cain, could have survived the flood? Well, that was, I don't have any scripture reference to back it up, but that's supposed to be, one of his curses was to never taste death.
That's right, because if whoever killed him would be cursed 7 times.
Right.
So therefore, could Satan have instructed Cain to build a ship also?
Yeah.
And when they landed, was in South America or Egypt.
That could have been. You're right.
I mean, I could go on and on and on.
You're right. They've taken that Egypt stuff and think that them pyramids are far older than what they think now,
The stuff they found in the Grand Canyon
what was that?
all Egyptian.
What did they find in the Grand Canyon?
The Smithsonian was given a whole bunch of stuff that they found in a big deal down on the wall of the Grand Canyon, about 600 feet up from the existing level of the water. And they thought at one time that's how high the water level was.
Uh-huh.
But as they walked in, there's a complete fortress.
What kind of Egyptian stuff was that? Do you know?
Well, I don't know. And see,
I've been tracking down Egyptian stuff that's been found near these symbols. You know, there was several Egyptian belts found that are just dissimilar enough that they was made by hand, but they're the exact same. You know, they had Egyptian hieroglyphs and stuff on it. In Pocatello, Idaho, where one of these symbols is, there was an Egyptian alabaster rock that was in the form of an egg that had writings on it, and they found this in 1918, I think it was. They just thought it was Indian writing on this egg. They didn't. Anyways, when King Tut's tomb came around in 1970, whatever, this lady was in the dentist office, and I was talking with her, and she said that she noticed, you know, in this book on the Smithsonian about King Tut's tomb, that there were some of these markings on some of his stuff was the exact same markings on this egg, and her great grandmother had given this to her when she was a little kid. She don't know why she hung on to it, but she did, and so she took it to Berkeley, University of Berkeley in California, and they authenticated it that it was on one side of the egg was King Tut's cartouche, and the other side was his high priest signature, and this egg was found in 1918, and they never broke into King Tut's tomb, I think, until 1922 or 27 or something like that. So that's interesting. By these symbols, there's a lot of Egyptian artifacts being found. And that's why I'm wondering, you know, what was found there in the Grand Canyon.
Well, it's in a book called Lost Cities of North and Central America.
Lost Cities of North and Central America. Okay. Do you know who wrote that?
Well, it's back. It's back in Indiana.
Okay.
A bookstore back there called, I don't know the guy's name, but he found the documentations that the Smithsonian actually received the stuff, and the letter in reply said, if we accept this, we will have to rewrite all the history books.
Really?
And the Smithsonian is now obsolete.
Really? Huh.
I'll make a copy of that and send it to you. What's your...
Yeah, I'd like that.
But the Ark of the Covenant, a man in southern Utah claims to have found the counterfeit.
Really?
Also, in that entry, he's found a room full of records. He says it'll take 100 years to decipher.
Really?
In another room is chock full of war artifacts. Another room is full of caskets with dead bodies in them. But he knows that people at BYU and the Council of 50, if you know who they are.
No, I don't.
Well, whether Brewer says they were after him or whether it was Harmson's group,
they
will kill if anybody tries to disprove the hierarchy.
Huh.
And when Brewer told me what happened to him, he said some teenagers happened to come by on four-wheelers and saved his life.
Huh.
But he feels that, see, he was threatened by the Indians that if he brought it forward to the Mormons, he would be killed. And you know they killed his son.
Well, I know that, you know, that was, you know, it was ruled suicide, but, yeah, I know that there was some things there, and he felt like it was because he took some of this stuff out that he shouldn't have.
That's right.
Right.
He asked me to find the 8 plates that are still missing. And I ended up finding this Jessen, the Utah archaeologist.
Uh-huh. Okay. The ones that took from Utah?
Right.
Right.
Well, and now he lives in Seattle, Washington. And he was the one that built and had funded the Museum of Natural History.
Uh-huh.
And he claims that those plates that was given to him were the forged ones that Brewer had made.
And that's what the BYU claims the ones they had was a
Right,
forgery
they
too.
were forged. They were cut by Brewer and his friend, but they were cut in the identical tone. And see, then what they did, Jenkins or Jennings, whoever his name is, spray painted them and sent them back east to get a letter back stating they were fraud. But see, they were so minute, they took and said that the plates had been cut recently, and that's why the tailings, they didn't do a good enough job, were still in place.
Right.
And whether they took plates that had nothing on them and inscribed them is probably what happened. But Brewer's plates are round. They have a hole in the center. What is a floppy disk?
Yep. Well, not all of them round, because I've held some of them that come out of Brewer's plates, some of the copper ones that come in a small box.
Yeah, but the ones that I got to handle were the round ones.
Okay.
And see, on the backside of the Manti Temple, there's crates full of records. Well, if they come in and the computers then see the little UPSs come out with the deal, they don't even have to type anything anymore. They scan it.
Right, they scan it.
Okay.
Yep.
That can be put into computer form right now. So when they put those discs into that computer, it's going to read it, put it out, and you talk about quickness.
That's interesting.
Of records. Well, this is what the ancient Indians in Idaho believed. Well, I have had the agent in my office that claims that he sold 10 metric ton of gold by the Mormon Church.
Really?
And he was the agent that handled the transaction.
Really?
But see, in 86, the church then was threatened. They tried to sell another 10 million, or 10 million tons of gold. And the Federal Reserve said, you will not.
Really?
There will be a bloodbath from state president and up if you sell one more ounce of gold.
Really?
This agent said he went into the room, and it was about a 4-hour drive from Salt Lake City. And he says he saw more gold than he knew existed.
Really?
And he thought it was in the central part of the state near Fillmore. Where he went in.
Really?